We want to welcome everybody back to the second session of the 2020 Digital Symposium for the UPAA. I want to thank Deanne for coming, and most importantly, thank our corporate partner think tank, which is also partially Deanne. They've done a lot to help as a corporate partner to help the UPAA keep moving forward during this unique time, but they helped us before this as well. So we're thankful for their partnership and look forward to that partnership as it continues on. Now to Deanne. I don't know if all of you must have seen her work, as she's started out as a newspaper photojournalist, creating amazing storytelling images. She won the Pulitzer Prize for an amazing photo essay that I'll drop the link to here in a few minutes. And since leaving the newspaper in San Francisco, she went on to start a great independent career as a freelancer, but she also is a partner at think tanks. So some of those ideas that are coming through and some of those amazing bags that we all use, she and her partners are the reason why they're there and why they're there available to us. So today she's going to share with us an edit that she's done, or she's a broad edit from her time covering the coronavirus pandemic that we're all dealing with. And with that, I just want to turn the time over to Deanne Fitzmaurice and say thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jay. It's very nice. Okay, let's see. So, all right, here we all are. Hey, everyone. It's so great to see you. I'm a big fan of this organization. I've spoken a couple times at different events that you've had, and I always really love talking with you. You're all really engaged and you're real pros. So this is going to be fun. Virtually, we are going to do an edit together, but the way I want to start things off is I want to talk about storytelling and how important it is, and how you go about creating a project, how you create a storytelling project. I really want to encourage you to all think about shooting every assignment that you do as a photo story. So we're going to dive deep into documentary storytelling. We're going to talk about how you find a story or a project, how you get access to a story, and then how you go about creating the images, and then lastly, how do you edit it into something. I'm going to end the time talking to you about my favorite think tank bags and how I pack them. So, but the really meaty part of this talk is going to be, I'm going to show you what I've done in 2020. And it has been a wild year, as we all know. I hope you guys are all hanging in there during this time and, making the most of it, really. Staying healthy and being careful, but also using this time to think about your photography, your business, your storytelling. So let's jump into this keynote. So I will go ahead and share the screen. Let's see. Okay, share screen. This one. Okay, how'd that work? Do you see my keynote?
Yep, we got it.
Excellent. Okay, good. Okay, so visual storytelling. I mean, it's something that we all do every day when we're out there working. Let's see. Sorry, let me just get organized here. Now, storytelling, why is it important? Why is storytelling important? When we're out here, doing our assignments. And one thing I want to say right in the beginning is I want this to be really interactive. I want I want you to bring on questions the whole time. Anything that you're wondering about my thought process, you're wondering about decisions I made, just go ahead and fire away. And this amazing group here that's on the back end, Jay and the team are going to be fielding these questions. So what I'm trying to do is, give me just a second, whoops. Give me a second to get organized here. Okay, all right. So let's talk about storytelling. It can be a body of work. It can be a photo story. It can be a photo essay. But what we're trying to do is really tell a story with a single image, even if it's within a story or a photo essay. And, people ask a lot, what is the difference between a photo story and a photo essay? There's crossover, people have different opinions on it, but generally the way I think of it is a photo story has more of a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a photo essay can be more of a collection of photos on one topic. One thing that's important to me in telling an image and telling a story in a single image is layering. And here's an example of a layered image. Because, we've got this rectangle that we're working with. How can we use it most effectively? How can we really use this space to tell a story? And here you have the foreground, which is the windshield, the middle ground, which is the rancher and the cattle, and then the background, the mountains and the clouds. And this was, I was on a story about a cattle drive, and at the end of the day, I was frustrated. I felt like I didn't really have a strong photo, but I jumped in my car to leave and looked in my rearview mirror, and this is what I saw. So I stopped the car, jumped in my back seat, and waited till they caught up with me. Again, a layered image. This is in Kenya. And it's really trying to tell a story. The kids inside are going to school and the kids outside are not able to go to school. And it's something where, I see this, I see the faces out there and the emotion, and I try to capture that. And then I think, okay, well, I can tell more of a story if I can see some of the children on the inside. And I think it also makes it a more sophisticated and nuanced image if we can layer. Again, this is a layered photo from Cuba, where I'm just trying to get as many layers as I possibly can. I'm leaning into this car, and that's my first layer. There's another layer of the two guys off at the right. There's another layer of the car going by, and there's another layer of the mirror. So just watching all this unfold, and it's all a lot of serendipity, and sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't, but it's something that I always strive to do. Again, in Cuba, and in this situation, I was composing from the background forward. I was sitting in a cafe, looking outside, and I see this interesting background with the world kind of going by, and then this young woman comes in and sits down, and I'm saying, oh wow, that's a nice layer, so I grabbed a quick shot of that, and then she pulled up her fan, and it was beautiful yellow backlit, and so that added another element. So I'm always trying to add elements and just look around the frame and what's working, what's not, how can I make it better?
Deanne, we have a question that I'd like to share with you.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself from just showing the process of an event and focus on the emotion behind the story?
Okay, say that again.
How do you keep yourself from just showing the process of an event and focus on the emotion behind the story?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. I think what I do is I go there and I just try to get some quick shots that I think tell the story. They fulfill the assignment, okay? Then I think, how can I make this better? And I think, what am I responding to? And really that's the key. Just to, okay, what am I feeling? You know, I see this incredibly emotional thing happening over there. I need to photograph that. So you want to kind of be open and just kind of feel it, pick up on the vibe of the room, of the event. And, you know, what are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you reacting to? And then key in on that. Okay, you know, a portrait, we don't always have to shoot from the front, so thinking differently. This is from the Super Bowl about 5 years ago, and, you know, just taking a different angle. I was shooting for Sports Illustrated, and they had photographers down on the field level, and, you know, this turned out to be the, you know, winning quarterback, Peyton Manning, and I was just waiting for a moment when it would be just him in the frame with this logo that told the story of the game. It was like, you know, a symbolic, you know, game, a big 50th anniversary. But then also, I knew that Peyton Manning might retire. And so it's kind of like he's running off the field. And he did end up retiring here. So this is really about just picking a different angle and believing in it. Because Sports Illustrated said, you know, just roam, go, you know, roam throughout, do whatever you want, you know, come back with some storytelling images. And I was up there on the roof, and I just stayed up there on the, you know, top floor of the stadium throughout the whole game because I just wanted to get this photo and I wanted it to really work. And so I gave up everything else for this one photo. Now, I know we don't always have the opportunity to do that because we have editors saying, hey, wait, you know, I need this, I need that. But it's just something to think about, you know, like if you can get the photos that you need to fulfill the assignment and then just take a chance on something else. And again, this is Barry Bonds, his last game as a San Francisco Giant, and I'm in a different angle from everyone else. And a big part of this is I was able to develop a relationship, you know, just build this relationship by talking to Barry Bonds and, you know, making this human connection where he kind of let me into his world a little bit, where I was able to photograph, you know, him at home with his family and try to tell the story of who he is as a person, as opposed to who he is as an athlete. So, you know, also building relationship with the security guard there. He knew I had been around there a lot, and I always spoke with him and, you know, Carlos, how you doing? You know, how things, how'd your daughter do at her soccer game? And just kind of building a human relationship that I think he let me hang out in this spot for just an extra minute where I was able to get this frame. And this frame is really storytelling. As you think about from the other angle, looking at Barry Bonds, it's going to look like any other game. It's just Barry Bonds walking out of the dugout. But from this angle, you know something's going on, and it's his last game. Okay, so use all of your tools. You know, you're in a situation and you're thinking, okay, how can I work this so that it's better? You know, we start the photographic process, and it's like, okay, I got a few people, I'm not too excited about them. What else can I do? Maybe I could try some motion. And, you know, here it's just slowing down the shutter a little bit and getting this combination of motion and still. And, you know, this picture, it's about color, it's about motion, and it is layered. So just thinking about when we get a photo, how can we take it to the next level? And humor, you know, humor is something we can add to our storytelling. You know, and this is, I was in Paris and just, you know, walking past a park, and I looked over and I saw this, and it was just this crazy juxtaposition of the fountain and this man relaxing. And, you know, so I just kind of like moved back a couple inches, lined things up, and shot this. So it's about humor. Yeah.
Jessica Bartlett has a great question that goes along with that last photo. She says, do you usually let your subjects know that you are photographing them beforehand, or do you let them know after you take the photos?
Oh, it's a great question. And it's always a balance. It's a true balancing act. I feel like if I had gone up to this guy and said, hey, you know, can I shoot your photo? There's this interesting little thing happening. He would have straightened right up. He would have been more awake. The moment would have been gone. I would not have this moment. So I went ahead and I shot it. Then I had a choice of what to do. You know, this is really street photography, and street photography kind of has its own rules. And, you know, I think about if I were shooting this for a publication, I would have gone up there to him and I would have spoken with him and I would have said, you know, I got a photo. And I probably would have told him the little joke behind it because I wouldn't want to deceive him. Like, you know, I would probably, you know, fess up and say, hey, you know, the fountain was pretty funny behind you. And I would have asked for his name, and, you know, he could have said, oh, no, I don't want my picture in the paper, you know, whatever, you know, and then I've got to deal with that. And if he says he doesn't want, you know, to be photographed for the paper, then I would trust that, and I would not submit this photo. But I was really just personal street photography, so I didn't feel like I needed to go up and get his name. So I didn't. So anyway, those are some of the things that I think about. You know, I know that the moment's going to be gone if I go up and I talk to them first. So generally with street photography, I mean, it's really tricky. Sometimes what I do is, you know, they may see me, and what I try to do is I just kind of hold my camera front and center so they know clearly, oh, she's a photographer. And then I try to smile at them or somehow make a little human connection. And at that point, they either put their hand up and say, I don't want to be photographed, or they smile back. So that kind of gives me a little bit of a sense of what I can do. So hopefully that answers it, but it's like every situation is different. Okay, again, you know, humor. In Morocco, driving down the road, there's a tree with goats. They climb up here to get these argan nuts. And it was such a surreal scene. And, you know, it was like they were all posing for me. They're all like placed perfectly. It was the craziest thing. Okay, your tools, you know, we talk about motion, and then we talked about humor. Humor isn't really a tool, but it's just thinking, how can I make this better? Okay, and here, shallow depth of field detail, and this was at a gay wedding. Light, you know, think about light. This was part of an assignment I was doing for the New York Times, and it was about Silicon Valley and about immigration in Silicon Valley. And, you know, I had gone there and I had tried to photograph this once or twice. And, you know, I wasn't really excited about the photos. I was thinking, oh, geez, they're just so mediocre. So I went back when the light was good and was able to capture something that, you know, really, you know, I felt like it really had mood. It has a feeling. So if we can do that with color, if we can make someone feel something, it's pretty powerful. And again, this was in Kenya, again, light, you know, by going out early in the morning. You know, just try to capture a mood, capturing a feeling. So, you know, I had done some straightforward shots here of the people walking down the tracks, but then it's like, okay, how can I take it to the next level? I could think about light, I could think about motion, you know, like all these different tools to just take it up to the next level. Problem solving. Okay, so, you know, this is early on. This is my husband, Kurt Rogers, and me, photographers at the papers. I was working at the San Francisco Chronicle. He was working at the San Francisco Examiner. That's where we met. You know, we're here on the sidelines of a freezing cold Giants game at Candlestick Park. But the reason I threw this in was to talk about, kind of solving problems. For years we were lugging around these big cameras and this camera equipment, and it's like your back starts killing you. It's like, how do we get this stuff on airplanes? Just all those challenges. And through that's how we came up with Think Tank, solving these problems. So this is, Doug Murdoch at the left. He's the president of Think Tank, and Lily Fisher at right. She's one of our designers. But it's problem solving. Kurt and myself, as two photographers, we teamed up with two bag designers, Doug Murdoch and Mike Sturm, and created this company, and just really trying to solve problems of, how do we get around as photographers more efficiently. So building relationships, I talked about that a little bit. I talked about how, with that Barry Bonds photo, I was able to get a photo, a storytelling photo, because of the relationships that I had built. So this was an event where I was, it was in Iowa with Barack Obama. He was running for president, and I went to an event, and it was kind of like that question that came up earlier about how do you go from just documenting an event to finding something emotional. So I'm going to tell you what happened here. Okay, I'm in this conference, and it's like, okay, Barack Obama's in there, and there's just tons of people in there and tons of media. And I'm thinking, okay, how can I come up with something that's unique, that's special? I don't want the same picture that everyone else has. There's something magic happening in this room, and I have to find it. So I look around the room, and I notice a bride and a groom in the middle of the room. And I say, God, that's so unusual at a campaign rally. So I make my way through the crowd, get up to them, and I start talking with them, and I say, hey, I'm curious, what are you guys doing here? And they said, oh, you wouldn't believe it. We're on our way from our wedding to our reception, and we heard that Barack Obama was going to be speaking here, so we wanted to just stop in here and catch a glimpse of him before we go on to our reception. And I was thinking, oh, that's just incredible. Now, going back to relationships, I had photographed one of these Barack Obama events a week earlier. And the campaign manager, I just had a human conversation with him. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Where you're from? Just making this little bit of a human connection. This same campaign manager came walking through the crowd up to the bride and groom. And I'm standing next to the bride and groom thinking, okay, if I could layer a photo with the bride and groom with Barack Obama on stage behind him, it might be interesting. And then I hear this campaign aide said to the bride and groom, hey, would you like to come backstage and see and meet Barack Obama? And they said, oh my God, we'd love to. So off they go backstage, and I just tucked in right behind them and walked backstage. I run into Secret Service, and they say, whoa, where are you going with that camera? The campaign aide turns around and says to Secret Service, oh, she's the wedding photographer. So he knew I wasn't, but he had my back. So this is the campaign aide at left. And so I was able to get this little moment of Barack Obama shaking hands with the bride and groom. And it's just something different. It's something different than everything else that was happening in that room. It was different than the photo everyone else was going to get. So it's about building relationships. So it's so important, I think, just to make this human connection with people. It's how we carry ourselves as photographers, and and just being a human first and a photographer second, I think is really important. Okay, so finding the human story. Are there any questions popping up?
Yeah, we got a few questions.
I can keep going if there's something that you think. Okay, so about the human story. This was a shoot I was doing for ESPN, and it was about the the US women's soccer team. And, you know, really challenging. You know, I think it's something that a lot of you run into a lot. So, you know, just the challenges that we get with, you know, sometimes with the public relations staff, and it's like, okay, I know what I need to get as a photographer, and they know what they need. And it's just finding this middle ground where we can each get what we need. So the public relations man told me, he said, okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute in the locker room. And there were 2 games. So I had the first day I went in there and it was like I had a minute. And it's like he was thinking, I'm just going to go in there and snap a photo and I'm going to be done. But what I'm looking for is this. I'm looking for a storytelling moment. And this is when Alex Morgan, right before the game, just got into her locker, put on her music, and got into the zone. And, you know, this is the kind of thing I was looking for. But the first day I went, he didn't get it. And I was saying, you know, I really need some time. I really need some time to wait for a moment to unfold. He wasn't getting it. So what I did is that night, I ended up writing him an email. And I explained to him why it was important that I have more time in there. That, you know, I didn't want to just shoot a picture of what the room looked like, of what the locker room looked like. That doesn't mean anything to me. What I wanted was something that just takes it up to the next level. And so the next day, again, he was going, no, you got 1 minute, you know, but he didn't ask me to leave for about 20 minutes. So maybe something I said in the email resonated with him. So anyway, I was able to get a little bit of time and, you know, be able to get something. I had time on the bus with them. But, you know, just trying to, you know, capture some moments that are beyond the obvious. Like, what's the unpredictable? Because I always think about, okay, before I go walking into a locker room, I might have an image in my mind of what my picture might be. But I don't want that picture. If it's something I can already think about, that doesn't do anything for me. I want to surprise people. I want to find something unpredictable and something really interesting and something that tells a story of the human experience. That's what excites me. Kind of measuring their heights. Again, just a little moment that's beyond this is what the locker room looks like. Okay, so any general questions about storytelling?
Yeah, we have a few questions I can share with you.
Yeah.
One from Jaron. He wants to know silent shutter. Are you using, I know you use the Z bodies, right? I'm not sure which one, but talk about that silent shutter and what it means for you.
Okay. Yes, I'm using the Z7 and the Z6 quite a bit, and I love them. I love having a lightweight camera that can do so much. I mean, I can switch to video really easily. I can, yeah, the silent shutter is amazing because it's completely silent. I use it in certain situations, and it is a great tool for when we want to be, you know, for when we want to be unobtrusive. It's really, really good. I mean, there are certain times when it's kind of weird, but I want people to hear the shutter. You know, it's like, okay, they hear the shutter, they know kind of I did my thing. But there are many times when I don't want them thinking about me, because as a documentary photographer, what I want to do is I want to become invisible. I don't want them to, I want them to forget I'm in the room, because I want to capture real life. I want to capture, you know, when they're aware of the camera, it's not real. And as soon as they forget about me, that's when magic starts happening. And a silent shutter can absolutely help with that.
Great answer. Jason Halley's asking, how did you begin to understand your personal photographic style, and how does your style influence the story?
Well, I think it just comes with time. The more time I spend photographing, and you're all out there photographing, well, geez, during these last few months, not so much, but generally over the years, you're out photographing every day. I mean, you're in a great position. Not all photographers, especially freelance photographers, are out photographing on such a regular basis. But it's like you learn your craft and you learn what you're excited about. Like if you are to go and look through, like your portfolio or what you feel are your best pictures, I think there's a lot in there that talks about who you are as a photographer. What makes you tick? What's exciting for you in photography? And I think that's what it's about. It's about figuring out, what really makes you excited? What, like if you weren't getting paid to do this, what would you go out and shoot? So it's kind of figuring out that. So it's kind of like a two-part answer, because it's figuring out what you want to shoot and going towards that. And that's where you'll do your best photography. And that's why personal projects are so important. But then there's when you're out there working on it, like what is your photographic style? And, the things I'm showing you, like about layering, that's important to me. And looking for mood using color and time of day. I just want every picture to be special, and I want every picture to be nuanced, and I want people to feel something. So those are the things that drive me. So I think it's a matter of figuring out what it is that's exciting to you. And I think, your personal style will be pretty evident, and it kind of can change and grow over the years. But I think if you look at your best pictures, you will see that. You will see what your style is, and you will see what it is you love to shoot if you look at what you think are your best pictures.
Oh, thank you. That was great. The next two questions are related, but I'll give them to you one at a time.
Okay.
The first one is, can you discuss how best to work with an editor/art director that sees or thinks differently than you do?
Yeah, that's always a challenge. I've worked with editors a lot over the years. And, I know that a lot of you, it's kind of, yeah, you're all working with editors, I would think, to one degree or another. I mean, the best case scenario is if you can work with an editor who sees like you do, who thinks like you do, who gets excited about the things that you get excited about. That's the best case scenario. And, I've had that opportunity, with different editors I've worked with. And my work absolutely grows when I'm in that situation. My work is better, when there's a collaboration. And that's something, collaboration is really important. That's something to think about, like within this group, UPAA, you have incredible collaborators that you can work with. Like, all right, say you have an experience where you're working with an editor and you're frustrated because the editor you come back from a shoot and your editor just doesn't see it like you do, maybe chooses different photos. I think what you have to do is just find your favorite pictures, whether that's collaborating with someone who you trust, someone else maybe in this group, a fellow photographer, and and maybe work with that person, and just start creating your own work. So maybe you would have a website that has your favorite pictures, and and you're working on a personal project that matters to you. It's easy to let go the everyday problems that we run into, with editors, if we have a personal project that we're excited about, or if we are able to just take your favorite photos from the project and create something with that. In terms of trying to build a relationship with your editors so that you can see better. I mean, it's difficult. Sometimes some people are, you know, really rigid, and sometimes they're more open. And, you know, I try to think of it from their point of view. Whether it's Barry Bonds telling me, no, you can't photograph me, or an editor saying, no, I think these are the photos. What I try to think about is, what is it that, why are they saying no? Why are they saying this? To try to get to the root of it. So, you know, your editor, they have an editor or some boss that they're answering to. They're, you know, probably trying to do the best they can. You know, but they have some challenges that they're dealing with, you know, and so I think if you can kind of understand what their challenges might be, and maybe try to come to some middle ground, and sometimes it takes a while of just like building up this relationship. So it's a long, complicated thing, but hopefully that'll give you a little bit of insight.
I love that. I love the idea of the collaboration, and I'm really lucky being right here. I've got Gabe, I've got Jaron, I've got Nate. We talk a lot about our work, and my challenge, I'm going to step out here and challenge everybody else in UPAA. Reach out to somebody else. You can reach out to the four of us, or reach out to each other. We need to do more of that collaboration that Deanne just talked about. Next question that is similar to that is specific to your photo essays. Kendra's asking, when you have an idea, do you take it to your editors first, or do you develop it first? How do you do that? I mean, it sort of goes to that last question of working with editors who may or may not like what you're doing.
Interesting question, and I've done it both ways, but I generally think if you can start on a project and show editors what you've got, I kind of lean towards that more, because sometimes it's hard for them to visualize it. And, you know, sometimes we're so excited about a project that, you know, to share our enthusiasm, they need to see some photos. So generally, I would say start it, get some photos first, and then go ahead and pitch it.
So this last comment from Dara, good comment I thought I'd share with you. I love that story about people having your back in a university setting. I think most of us rely on that for getting places when you need it.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, I think we're all in this together, you know, and we're all trying to tell the stories. I think, you know, some of the challenges that we deal with is, you know, with editors or, you know, people that we're working with is, you know, we all care so much about what we're doing, and we want it to be as good as possible. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into 2020. I mean, what a year we are in. Wow. So the year for me started out with a bang. I mean, it was exciting, adrenaline fueled assignments. So I'm going to take you through my January, February, March, and then I'm going to show you how I handled this COVID pandemic in terms of, do I work on a story? Do I not work on a story? And I'll take you through that. So January, I get a call from ESPN. Hey, Deanne, do you want to go to New Orleans and photograph the college football championship game? It's like, oh yeah, great assignment. I'd love to do that. So I go down there, and, you know, my editors, I mean, it's pretty amazing, really, because, you know, God, there are some good photographers. And so I was really pleased that they assigned me to this, because I don't think I'm the best action photographer out there. But I know the reason that they did bring me on, and that's because I can do action okay, but I can also bring the storytelling element to it. So that's really what they wanted. They wanted a combination. You know, when I talked to them, I said, okay, yeah, what are you looking for? And they said, yes, we want you to shoot action. You're going to be on the field. You're going to be on the sidelines. you know, and we also, it was me and a local photographer there, Annie Flanagan, who is amazing. And so I was going to be on the field, but they also wanted me to tell the story of the game. So here is MVP quarterback Joe Burrow, and you know, kind of a nice moment of him, you know, game action, you know, good energy. Now, you're probably wondering why I went black and white with this. Now, the colors somehow were just so distracting. Of course, ESPN used the images in color, but when I pulled it together for myself, I kind of liked it in black and white. Somehow it held together this, this and the next few photos I'll show you. It held together cohesively in black and white. You know, it was like the colors were just like so intense, you know, purple and yellow and orange. And so I converted it to black and white, and I thought it worked really well as a cohesive body of work. Could have gone color, but I just felt like the black and white worked pretty nicely. And, you know, just getting into this crazy scrum at the end, you know, Hail Mary kind of shot, podium. And then at the end of the game, you know, I had a runner, you know, who was, you know, taking the cards back to the media room, and my editor was downloading the images as, you know, getting them back to headquarters. But I said, okay, I'm just gonna go find the quarterback. He's the story of the game. So I have to go find him. And so I just went and I hung out by the edge of the locker room and just waited till he came out. And I got rewarded because he came out smoking a cigar. You know, and so it's just that thing that I've talked about the unpredictable. I mean, it would be one picture of him walking out, okay, yeah, that's okay. But him walking out, smoking a cigar, that is storytelling. And it's kind of about not giving up, you know, just like going to that locker room and, you know, trying to work the situation till the very end. But it's also really great when you have editors that trust you. You know, we talk about this relationship between, you know, photographers and editors, and having an editor that trusts you, where my editor says, Deanne, just go do your thing, you know, and it's like, wow, that's pretty great to have that kind of freedom. It gives me freedom to really trust my instinct. And when we're out there working, that's what we have to do. We're trusting our instinct. And it's like everything of who we are as a person comes through. And, you know, like in some ways, you know, I love unpredictable moments like this. I love humor in photographs when possible. And to me, this has a little bit of humor. So, you know, just trying to always take it to the next level. Interesting thing happened when I left this game. I was flying to Washington, D.C. for something, and I ended up on a flight with Joe Burrow's uncle. And it turns out he was in the seat next to me, and I was editing my shoot. And he says to me, oh, yeah, Joe, he's my nephew. I said, like, what? So anyway, so that was kind of interesting. And sometimes crazy serendipity happens. But anyway, that was January. I had recently done a photo shoot with Huey Lewis and the News, the band. And, you know, it was a great shoot, a really different kind of shoot, you know, a portrait shoot. They were coming out with a new album, and they wanted to do a new, just kind of update their photos. So I needed to do a group shot of the band, and their new album coming out was going to be called Weather. And so they wanted to, you know, like photograph in an environment that said that. So, you know, we got really lucky that there was fog under the Golden Gate Bridge on this day. And so, so this is the portrait that, that they selected after the shoot, Huey and his manager. And then, you know, so this year, they came out with this album. Now, Huey Lewis has had some hearing problems and, some real challenges with that affected, his touring and all. But he came out with this album, and I was really excited to see this become his album cover. So this was the front album cover, and then the band, that was the back album cover. And so this year really was starting off pretty great, and then my photos started showing up, all over the place, Rolling Stone and all these publications. My friends would write to me and say, hey, I saw your photo. So, that was exciting. And then Jimmy Kimmel had my album on his show, my album cover photo. So that was all good. And next thing I know, this February, ESPN says, hey, Deanne, we want to send you to the Super Bowls. I'm thinking, oh my God, that's the best. So I want you to go to Miami and shoot the game. And again, it was the same situation. We want you to capture the action. You're going to be on the sidelines, but we also want you to tell the story of the game. And that's what this was. At the end of the game, a Kansas City player, came running down the field towards where I was with all the confetti coming down. I ran on the field and, was able to capture this moment that just kind of, unpredictable around the edges. And that's kind of where I like to look for these storytelling images that capture emotion and just capture a feel of the game. And, shooting on the sidelines, trying to capture the play of the game. I'm trying to look around the edges because I really want to tell the story of the game, but I also want to capture the play of the game. Even though my editors are great and they say, Deanne, you know what, if you miss a major play, don't worry about it. Because that's what I asked them. I said, how much are you relying on me to get play of the game? And they say, it'd be great to get some really strong action from you, but, we also want you to, look around the edges, get the story of the game. So, working hard to do both, but then, capturing this interception, kind of game-changing interception in the fourth quarter, while, shooting the halftime show, Shakira, J-Lo. But, it's like, okay, they didn't ask me to shoot halftime, but, I was tempted, okay, yeah, it might be nice to kind of go back to the media room, get a hot dog or something. But it's like, no, I got to stay here and shoot this, just like putting pressure on myself to, just do as strong a shoot as I can. End of the game, again, getting in the scrum and just getting close to the winning quarterback, always challenging. And then getting the picture that, everybody, the podium shot where, everybody's, trying to get this photo and, they set it up as a photo op. So, they have a riser where photographers can get that, but I wanted to get something a little bit different. So I shot this, but then being able to get a picture that meant something to me. And this is the moment when his girlfriend, jumped into his arms. And so, just a little around the edge photo. The other photographers were busy with the podium and I was just looking around the edges going, where's the quarterback? Where's the quarterback? Knowing that any significant picture likely is going to have to do with the quarterback, the winning quarterback. And now I just want to finish up with, I want to talk about some of the think tank bags that I use. The Airport International is my favorite roller. I use that a lot. It fits overhead in most airplanes. It fits overhead on, international, domestic, and here's what the inside looks like. And here's an example of how I pack it. So this is, I've got 3 bodies in here. I've got a Z7 and 850 and D5 and, assortment of lenses. Okay, this is a different way of packing. This was, I needed to do everything in one bag. I was going for like a 1-night trip. And so I just wanted to stick some clothes in here and my equipment. So you can configure these in any way you need to. So, so this is kind of how I did this. And again, this is the Airport International. The little red handle that's a flare that you can order in different colors. A smaller roller that I use is the Airport Advantage. And this is great if you want a lighter weight or a smaller roller. It still holds a lot of equipment, but it fits overhead in a regional jet, which is really important. And so it's just not as deep as the others. And so this is an example of this bag packed up. This is not my equipment. This is a think tank set this up for this photo shoot. Because normally I don't like to have my lenses attached when I'm traveling.
I would think that would be a perfect bag for the Z or other mirrorless cameras.
It's a great bag for the mirrorless system because it's just not so deep, and and it's really lightweight also, which I love. So when I fill this up with my mirrorless system, the Z6 and the Z7, it's so lightweight that it just saves my back. Okay, and I did not name this bag, Think Tank Hubba Hiney, but okay, so one thing to think about is the rollers and big backpacks I use to get my stuff somewhere. I use it to transport my equipment, whether it is on an airplane or in the trunk of my car. But once I get somewhere, I leave my big bag behind and I just carry a light bag and travel around, just walk around shooting. So this is a very small shoulder bag. Like I don't even put a camera body in here. What I love about it is it can be either a shoulder bag or it can go through your belt. And you can see that it's a pretty small bag, but I'll just put like a couple of backup lenses in it, maybe a flash, but not a lot of equipment. I can put a 70 to 200, but that has to go vertically in it. Another bag I use if I need to carry a little bit more walking around, and that is, I love the Retrospective series. This is the Pine Stone color I love. It also comes in black, but this is kind of a mid-sized one. It's the 7 is the model, but I sometimes carry the 5, which is a little bit smaller. Here's the inside of the 7. It holds a 15-inch laptop, but generally I don't carry a laptop in this bag. And usually I don't even put a body in it. Usually it would just be my lenses and my cameras out and I'm shooting. And then it has these sound silencers because there's a little piece of like Velcro hook and loop that's covered right now. So you can uncover that or you can have it covered. So this bag has a lot of great little features. It has that nice little zipper around the top if you want to use that to keep the interior protected. Backpack that I like is the Shapeshifter, and that goes from a really thin narrow bag to it shapes it. Yeah, so it expands out, and you can see that here where the inside is like this with these pouches. You fill it up, and then the bag expands. So anyway, so those are some of my favorite bags, and boy, I talked for a long time, didn't I? All right, let's see. So I guess I'm gonna stop sharing screen here. So anyways, everyone, you can keep in touch with me on Instagram and all the usual places. All right, so.
Judging by all the comments that we've just got in the past few minutes as you're winding down, everybody loved it. So
I'm so happy to hear that. Stop share, okay. I'm really happy to hear that. It's like, wow, that was a whirlwind, wasn't it? We did quite a bit. We did a lot of work there. So yeah, any additional questions?
Just looking through here. I'm getting mostly just thanks for being here. Love Think Tank, love the presentation. Sorry, if there are questions, I'm missing them amongst all the love that's getting sent in your direction.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. So, so everyone can choose how comfortable they feel to go out and photograph during this time. And, of course, personal safety and your health is the most important thing, but just figuring out what feels right and being able to go out there and document these stories. So I know you all have projects that you need to do and trying to figure it out, but yeah, bring on any questions you have, happy to answer.
And make sure that you stick around after that because there's a couple questions coming in, but we still need to give away the prizes. So here, let me give you a couple of questions. This is from Eric. In your photo essay, why is the moon photo important to the story? I feel like I'm missing the connection.
To me, that photo, it's a good question. Thanks for asking that, because it does feel different than the others. But to me, it's kind of like what those 2 months felt like. Inside, quiet, moody. We've all just been like hunkered down inside our home. And so it felt like that to me. That photo felt like it was important to show that feeling of being at home. Now, this is a work in progress. I have no idea where it's going to go, what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to continue trying to figure out where to go with it, and just reacting to things that I hear about and keep trying to build it and, see what it turns into.
So Nate has a question of how do you emotionally detach from your photos? Good question.
Yeah, boy, that's a good one. Okay, I always say that I think you have to feel something to photograph it well, to really capture it. So you don't want to turn off your emotions completely, because I really feel like, if you feel something, you can photograph it in a deeper way than if you don't. But you can't let it paralyze you. Like, some things are just so emotional to photograph, so you don't want to be paralyzed by it. So, I focus a lot on the technique and what I'm doing. I think if it gets pretty intense emotionally, I think I just start focusing on the craft, on, thinking about the photography part of it, thinking about, layering and light, and, try to distract myself a little bit. So I think it's important to feel something, but I also think that, you just have to find the right balance.
Well, thanks, Deanne. I really appreciate that. You did a great job, and having your insight is something that, everybody wants to sit in the mind of another photographer that they respect and see what they think. And it was been great watching you as you've gone through this process and involving us. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it was really fun having you all involved, and it's I mean, you're all pros, so you've all got great experience and judgment. So it was really fun to kind of go through that, and it was interesting for me to see what you responded to. And that's generally my my process of how I edit something down, and I'll just keep whittling it down. It kind of depends how it's going to be used, of the direction of the edit. But thinking about those things like sequencing and how do you start. But this was a little different than a regular edit, because it was really a bunch of stories, and they each could be edited into their own story.
True, very true. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thanks to Think Tank for all your innovation, as well as sponsoring this talk, and for the support you give as a corporate partner. So.
Absolutely. We are happy to help out, and we really appreciate all the support from all of you. We know a lot of you are fans and users of Think Tank, and we have great respect for that. And, we're happy to help in any way we can to support your photography.
Thank you. Well, speaking of Think Tank, we can move on into our next little giveaway. It's the Think Tank Photocross 13 bag, and the winner of the Photocross 13 is Clay Stalter. So congratulations, Clay.
Congratulations.
The next thing is one of the swag bags that we sent out to the presenters with a variety of fun stuff. And the winner of that is Valerie. And I'm sorry, Valerie, I would slaughter your last name. but it's Valerie. Do we have, let's see. And don't forget Tim Schoon. Tim won one as well. So there we go. There are winners, and remember to join us tomorrow when we'll hear from Scott Robert Lim and Jonathan Thorpe. So thanks for joining us. And again, thanks to Deanne for all of her great work and for inspiring us.
Thanks to Jay and Jaren and the team for keeping everything moving so smoothly in this virtual world we're in, and for fielding the questions and all. And thanks to everyone for participating. It was really fun.